Bonereapers here with another fresh tip for you all. In this video, we are going to continue our work at Katakros, and we're going to continue work on Gnosis the Scrollbearer. And in this video, we are going to work on the scroll, just as the title of the video might suggest. So you can see here the model's already been primed, all ready to go, and we are going to start things off with some skeleton horde and some technical contrast medium. We're going to lay a dollop of it down and use 2 dollops of the medium. Give it a quick little mix. You can see there it kind of lightens it up, but that's fine because we're not looking for this to be overly saturated, and we are going to apply this in a fairly generous fashion over the entirety of the scroll, allowing some of the color to fall within the recesses of the details, but otherwise we're going to apply this pretty generously over the entire model, not letting it pool up too heavily anywhere other than into the recesses, nooks and crannies. And we're going to clean up this little spot here with this little icon of a person who's apparently pooping. We're going to clean that up just a little bit and set that aside, allow it to dry. We're going to come back in with some skeleton horde, and we're going to use a sponge. Now, these kinds of sponges, you can typically find these in packages of miniatures. If you're using pewter models or resin models or anything like that, we're going to use some clamping tweezers. As far as the sponge, you can also go to any kind of big box stores in the painting sections, and oftentimes those cheap finishing brushes will often be made of a same sponge. Oftentimes with the clamping tweezers, I often just like to usually just pinch the little bit of sponge, put it into any kind of shape we like. Here I'm just going to use a little bit of the skeleton horde has been left onto the palette, and very carefully here we are going to simply very lightly daub the surface of or stipple. It's a stippling action really is what we're doing here. And as we work our way around, a big thing to be mindful of as you work your way around the surface is that if you feel the tweezers hitting the surface of the model, you are applying a little too much pressure. If you feel the model bouncing around in your hand, you are applying a little too much pressure. So you want to keep a fairly light hand, to be very, very gentle as you work your way around. And as you work your way around the model, you can see here as I'm building up color, again, it's getting deeper and deeper because we applied a very thin layer first, and then with the second layer, it's deepening up the color, giving us all sorts of nice little texture, giving us that nice little bit of aging going on. Our Garros Dune is next, and this is going to be thinned out just a little bit with some contrast medium. Basically in a 1-to-1 fashion, 1 dollop of a Garros Dune and 1 dollop of medium, and this will be applied fairly generously over the surface, just kind of one coat, allowing it to pool within the recesses and provide an overall tint to pretty much the entirety of the scroll. We're going to work it around, and basically we went with this tone as it is slightly different from the skeleton, so we want to have some color variance. And you may have noticed that there was that little bump earlier from the skeleton horde that had that little spot on the back. I wasn't too worried about it, as you know, we're not going to really notice that. Once it's dry, we're going to come in with some Wraith Bone. We're going to slap this onto our palette. We're going to use a medium dry brush here, and we're just going to slap a little bit, grab a little bit onto our brush, pull a vast majority of the paint off the bristles, and very, very lightly dry brush the surface. Now, if I hit the fingers, I'm not too worried about it. Really what I'm doing is I'm just trying to catch the edges and maybe a bit of the text that's on the surface here. You can see the model pulling just a little bit, but otherwise you really just want to keep a very, very light hand. But that is it. That is the scroll. Next we're going to work on is maybe a glowing effect on the scroll. Maybe this text is supernatural in some fashion. Big thank you to all my patrons. Without your support, these videos just would not be possible. And so a huge, huge thank you. Click the link in the description below to follow links to Patreon support, and a huge thank you, and take care of those brushes.